Welcome to BlaqPod, the BlaqPod. Take two. To BlaqPod, the podcast for everyday people. Our podcast is aimed at telling stories of everyday people who inspire in their life, in their journey. My name is Alexis Napiadipeche, and with me today is Mpho Morolane, a friend of mine that I've wanted to bring on for a chat for the longest of time, and I'm really happy that you're joining me today. Welcome, Mpho.
Thank you, Alexis, and thank you for inviting me. It's been a while.
Awesome, it's been a while. I think what's key for me in having this conversation today, I thought, where do I begin? Because I mean, there are so many facets of you. But I think in telling a story of a journey of one's life, you must always start at grassroots and then build it up, right? So, Mpho Morolane, who are you?
Mpho Morolane is a man now who was a boy born in Hammanskraal many years ago.
Yeah.
I started my primary that side. When I was about 14 years, I then went to stay with my aunt in Mamelodi. So when you speak about township, that brought up Mpho Morolane, it's Hammanskraal, Temba, and Mamelodi. I matriculated at EFFSC War School.
Oh, wow.
It's a color-dominated area, and that's where I think my consciousness began, you know.
Okay. In EFFSC?
In EFFSC, okay. It's obviously a largely dominated colored area. Yes. We're walking to school because, and
Okay. So, Hoër school, if it's a Hoër school, are you doing Afrikaans at school?
Yeah, it was English Afrikaans medium. But I remember then I could speak a bit of Afrikaans because of the distance now.
Of what it is.
Yeah.
So you grew up you're in Temba, it's the township you grew up in, right? And then you come to almost, so let's call it teenager, you're coming into your consciousness. Sure. And you come into Mamelodi, then into so 3 different areas. So peri-rural to some degree, and then urbanized as in township, as in Mamelodi, but also this crossover between let's say, culturally diverse space, because then Mamelodi is a melting pot on its own, while the rest also has its own different dynamics. Yeah. How do you come to a Black consciousness? Let's call it that.
Look, I think this started earlier. Remember, when you come from a poor background, you'll have your grandmother and your mother working as domestic workers. Yes. And you'll realize that when you visit them, the environment is not the same. Obviously, you lack because you're from the township. When you come here, conditions are proper. Because you visited your grandmother who's a domestic worker. I mean, you start making a comparison in saying that, but why can't we live like these people? Yes. And you find your grandmother visits you once a month. Yes. It can't be correct. And she comes for 2 days, yes, a month, and when she leaves, all of you are crying at home because this is the person that you miss a lot. And parents must be interacting with their offspring continuously. It's the same as migrant labor. In fact, it is migrant labor when you are having your mother working elsewhere as a domestic worker. I mean, consciousness builds from there, you know,
So I like the idea that consciousness does not come from an external source. You start to come into consciousness as an African person or as a Black person living within the conditions of what is created by society, right? So then you go to high school, you finish high school. Yeah. Where are you in that movement?
Yeah, that rises even further because I made a good friend of mine at EFFSC school. Yeah. By the name of Chester. You know, when we matriculated, yes, obviously one wanted to go and study in university. And he went to work at SBV, you know, the cash in transit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Then I said, no, man, we might make a plan. He said, no, but that's not for you. And we were friends, you know.
Yeah.
He said, look, I'll speak to my mother who's working in the bank.
Yeah.
He'll sort you out. I don't think you must go to this field, you know. And said one of our friends was shot dead. We were same peers, we matriculated at the same time.
Yeah.
And I went to the bank, you know. There, I mean, you see a systemic racism, subtle racism, wherein people in managerial position in the main are white people. To some extent, the coloreds, Indians, and you don't see Africans rising to positions of decision making. And I decided I can't be in this environment. I must go back to school. So mine was done differently. Immediately after matric, you go work for about 4 years, 6 years, and you realize, no, but this is a waste of time. Let me leave work and go back to school. My grandmother was angry at me. Remember when you assist them? And you say, no, you are leaving work, you are going to study. There was hostility on the part of my family. I think my mother was the only one who motivated me to say, if you feel that it's what you want to pursue, then go for it. And Rona will see how we survive. And I went to university. One was committed immediately when I entered university because of the experience I had at work environment, upbringing. Immediately joined a student movement. And I can say that's where my activism was honed. Yeah.
Which university did you go to?
It was UNISA, University of South Africa. Yeah, I joined SASCO. My second day there was a poster. Then I called whomever who was a point of contact on the poster. He said, no, we have a mass meeting. It was quite nice because there was weekly political discussions. Every Tuesday, there's a Mkhabulo Tuesday. And that's where you start building your confidence, because the first time you go into the political class, you can't speak properly. But with time, after 6 months, you realize, or no, but I also have views about Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and all of that. So it was quite a good inspirational exercise that we did as the then young activist in the universities.
What year are we talking now? I just want to frame the outside world.
It was, when was this? 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
So the world is changing, of course. We've got, South Africa is also on a global stage at this time, right? We're building stadiums. I'm going to tie it to that, right? Because society is changing. A new era of post-2000 Y2Ks come through. We've sort of started to shirk to some degree the Amanda speak of post-apartheid. We're creating and carving out a new society. You're coming into the space. You are starting to get into student politics. You're starting to cut that out. What makes you or propels you to start to see that change isn't necessarily always there?
Look, remember, I was older when I went to the universities. Remember, I worked for maybe about 6 years, I'm not sure. Then, old as I was, I realized that no, but this cannot work. So when I enter the institution of higher learning, I'm very much mature. Obviously, because one was taking good care of himself. People thought, no, you are very young. I mean, I was born on the 3rd of September, 1982, but people thought
that
I'm
there.
And because of my upbringing, as I said, immediately into politics, wanting to change the conditions. Also in the university, you know, NSFAS and all of that. So one was actively participating in ensuring that those who don't know processes in the university of how they take about their queries in raising with the university as far as NSFAS is concerned.
So, yeah.
I was in the forefront of that. Mind you, also I was a student of NSFAS. So in assisting students,
Yes.
indirectly I'm helping myself.
Yes, 100%.
You know, so when it comes to my issues, I already know
what's ahead of you.
because I have experience of assisting other students.
Yes.
So I came to the institution matured as an adult.
Yeah.
And for me to acclimatize, it was quite easy because I knew why I had to go to the university because conditions of Black people without some sort of education, you are at a disadvantage.
So when I was looking for work, I realized that I have to have the piece of paper. I knew what I knew. Actually, a funny story. I went and applied for a job at the Pretoria head office of the cops. And the guy said to me, my sister, you could get this job, but you don't have the piece of paper that says you can. Because people can't even write. People get degreed and then they have a challenge in coming into work because of the experience. And when I came from a different perspective, right? So with you coming in older, wiser, I'm assuming, you start to build out a student or become part of the student activism. Yeah. We're still at SASCO now. Yes. Conditions are changing. University terms change. How do you actively engage with the university, not only from an NFSS point of view, of course, because knowing from reading and seeing things, I'd like you to take me on that journey. You've had quite a journey with University of South Africa, so I'd like you to take me on that one.
Look, they say universities are the microcosm of the society, which can be debated to some extent. I questioned at a later point the professor who said universities are the microcosm of the society. Because remember, as a student, the minute you enter, in my view, inherently, automatically, you become an elite, even if you are poor. True. Because of the environment. Yes. You see, when you are hungry at the university, chances are you will eat. Maybe because of a program there. And even engagements that you are having with your peers and professors, lecturers, and all of that. It's a different space as opposed to the community, the grassroots. Yes. But to some extent, say the professor is correct, there are issues. Yes. In as much as you are in that space, maybe you travel with a bus to come to the university or a train and all of that. There are issues or problems that you come up with automatically. Yes. They are going to affect you in that environment. Yeah. So you interact about study material, for an example, the conditions of study halls, the safety of students, and all of that. Yeah. And, things will not be perfect. And when there are disparities in an environment, if you are an activist, you are going to raise issues, questions, write letters, and the interaction started immediately. It was broad. It was not limited to student issues alone of NSFAS, which are ordinary, but it was quite broad. Yes. You learn in the University of Pretoria, for an example, because it's not far from Unisa. There are young people selling their bodies, not because they want to be prostitutes, but you come from KZN, and they said, no, here's a bursary. You don't know where to stay and all of that. Some of them, even now, they are damaged. Yes, that's true. But you can't say it happened at UP alone. It was happening also at Unisa, Sunnyside, and all of that. You start engaging on some of these issues. Yes. You create confidence among students so that if they have issues, they can approach you directly and tell you about challenges they are experiencing. Yeah.
So would you say then that your leadership was born? The sense of leadership, was it born at this moment when you could then build the confidence of people to come and talk to you? Born or rather elevated?
It has always been there. I mean, in the bank, I hated that environment. They made me a chairperson of a transformation, and there's nothing that you can transform in that sector unless if you come with a proper revolution.
Yes.
But if you would want to transform following their policies, it's a waste of time. There's nothing that you can achieve. Now, you want to be aggressive, you can because of the environment, you know. So one has always been an activist questioning, as I said earlier on, from the young age when you visit your grandmother, there, go to kitchen, you know, you start questioning. So it has always been there. One hasn't been comfortable when you are sitting amongst people and there are disparities. Yeah, there's always been an inquisitive mind to say, but why is this happening?
A sense of unease born out of it. Okay, so Sasco, Unisa, you're studying?
I was studying LLB.
Okay, and the idea was to become a lawyer?
Yeah, I was to become a lawyer, obviously inspired by Nelson Mandela, inspired by many politicians who studied law. But I graduated in 2017 and I realized, but law is not for me. I served articles at Nkome Incorporated. When I was serving articles, I realized, but I'm not going to last in this profession because it's highly regulated. I'm rebellious in nature. I remember my principal said, go do a bail application. And the instruction was that before you do this application, there was something I needed to ask to the magistrate before he can call the roll and all of that.
Yes.
Now, this magistrate was arrogant, and I responded back. He said, no, you must know that your matter will hear it at 2 o'clock. I said, but it's fine. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
You know how they are, judges, magistrates. They think that they are gods and all of that. But in that profession, if you don't toe the line, you are not going to succeed. You know. Then I realized I'm happy one has LLB degree. I don't think I'm a lawyer. I'm more of an activist.
Yes.
Even now, as a trade union leader, it's a legal space. It's labor law. So one is still using LLB. I can't say it's a waste of time, but being a practicing attorney and advocate, I'll do it maybe when I'm 59 years. Something to do because I'm bored.
Okay.
Yeah.
So trade union. Tell me a bit more about the trade union.
Look, remember 2015, 2016, one was elected in 2016 as the president of the EFF Students Command.
Yeah.
The height of fees must fall was around that time. We embarked on the struggle of insourcing of the vulnerable workers. And we were leading that struggle, championing it, especially in UNISA. It was only EFFSC, as opposed to other universities where there was SASCO, ANC Youth League, and all these organizations. In UNISA, championed by EFF Students Command. Were successful. Workers were insourced. We graduated. We wanted to pursue law and all of that. Workers then invited us back to say, but these unions that are remaining, they are not as aggressive as you. We want that aggression because we saw it working for us. That's when one decided, when I was at the law firm, that no, one must go back because one is being invited by the workers. That's how NASA workers, a trade union, started. And
Okay, so it's called NASA. What does it stand for?
National Association of South African Workers.
National Association of South African Workers. You talk about the spirit of rebellion. And if people were to go and look you up in certain instances, they see you, especially in the worker space, being very robust engagements with people, right? And balancing that view with fighting for the rights of workers, but also balancing the rebellion. When you talk about the judge and how you toe the line, how do you now balance this idea of what you'll say aggression? And does being in a union mean aggression, or do you then have new ways of talking to it?
Workers are extremely exploited to some extent to the point of slavery in this country.
Okay.
Now, aggression is for you to knock that I want a table so that we can discuss about issues of workers. So oftentimes when you see that aggression in militancy, it is when the doors of engagement are closed completely.
Okay.
Now, if people, they say, we can't engage you, and they know that they are on the wrong, what must we do? Must we say, no, God is there, we must pray? It doesn't work like that. We go there with aggression. Aggression also doesn't resolve issues of worker. It's when a platform is granted to us that we are able to see how best we negotiate on behalf of the workers. So being a black person globally is being relegated to a status of not being a human. Most black population in the world is Brazil, followed by Nigeria. Look at the conditions of black people in those countries, the USA. And the neo-colonialism, I mean, it means we must fight.
Yes.
That's why when you are a black person,
Yes.
you have to be qualified and all of that.
Yeah.
There are professors without PhDs
in
universities.
Yes.
You can't be a professor without one if you are black. And we're not promoting mediocrity.
No, of course not.
We say, let all people be treated the same globally. You know, that's why in your space of journalism, there are many journalists without qualifications.
That's true.
If you are white, you can even be a senior person in the space without qualification. When you're black, then you must be scrutinized, you know. So, yeah.
So when you're talking about being black and having to, and that's the combative, right? Because I think right now, post the Mzabalazo, post all of that, we've started to frown upon this idea that we must fight for things, that we must, because it's almost like there's this creation of an even playing field that we should be playing at, where even when workers' rights are being demanded, it's almost like you must do it in a quiet and very civil manner. Because the moment that you demand something in a vociferous way, somebody has a problem.
You are quite correct, and it's a system. Remember the transition from apartheid to democracy. It was not through a revolution.
No.
It was a negotiated settlement. And
100%.
if it's negotiated, then you're going to lose. And we had more to lose as black people because we were not part of the system. Now, because they had to be incorporated into the system, they then adopted the ethos, the culture of the system. That's why you'll find a minister or a president, for that matter, who was a trade unionist.
Yes.
If workers go to an event of a president raising issues of workers which are legitimate, we'll say, no, but you must find a proper decorum of raising these issues. Why? Because they had to be incorporated into a system. When you are incorporated into a system, even your culture changes, how you perceive things and 100%. All of that. That's why you must always be grounded as an activist so that you don't forget what you stand for, because the perks of the system has a way of transforming people. Even the best of the best, you know, they are transformed because of the exposure of luxury that they incur. Post the democratic dispensation, it appears as if liberation movement fighters were excited, right? Because they incorporated into a system of whiteness.
Yes.
Now, when you are being incorporated into a system of whiteness, there are many shortcomings that you're going to have, right? The issue of ministers, as an example, you can't have a minister for 5 years and they leave. They go back to the township. My view is that you must have ministers with benefits like judges. I'm not saying equal, I'm saying the method.
The method, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wherein, if you are a minister, you must have a salary for life.
Okay.
You must not do business with the state. Your spouse, your children must not do business with the state. Because ministers, they get a salary of 2 million, cars, they are exposed to luxury.
Yes.
For 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah.
If your term is 5 years, you serve, third year you are realizing, there's a new president, and this president, it means I'm going.
Yes.
What are you going to do? You'll start thinking about your future and the future of your children.
That's true.
That's how capture, corruption starts. Even a sophisticated capture of policy capture.
Okay.
They are not saying they are capturing you, but they capture you.
Yes.
You see?
Yeah.
Now, if salaries of ministers are secured like that, in a way you'll be reducing the level of corruption because they are at the center of this corruption. That's why they can't nip it in the bud, because they are active participants in this corruption.
Yes.
You see? You can't do that. You can't expose people to 2 million and after you say go back to township. You see? They must have a house. I'm not saying a luxury house. A house. Proper house. Maybe a car. And all those benefits for life. So that when they leave office, they don't become ordinary people of the society. Then, in a way, you'll be dealing with corruption.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then do you think that if we had that, we wouldn't have ministers staying in positions forever, right? Because there's a need for refreshment. Do you then think that people stay longer also because of that?
No. Remember certain projects, example in infrastructural projects, they take long and all of that. I think 5 years is okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that when you leave, even if it is reduced, right? Live with some sort of decency so that corruption doesn't be part of you because you no longer have an income.
Okay, so post-apartheid, right? Yeah. I know that Mahua allowed us into their spaces. They gave us access to their, sometimes I think they say, we let them pee in the same toilets as us, as a level of example to keep the docility down, right? Does that not cut off the legs of those politicians that we're fighting, the liberators as they put themselves to be? Because if you look at where those liberators are today, they're all in positions of equal access to whiteness.
Yeah. The system of apartheid was so smart that how do we keep on controlling these people? They must assimilate into the system so that we control them. Now, black people are not participating in the economy. White people make money out of anything.
Yes, they do.
Whether it's a stick of matches, a stick, they make money out of anything. Black people, not that we are not entrepreneurial. The space is closed that we can't make money the same way white people are making money. There's nothing special about the intellect and the thinking capacity of white people. History, colonialism, apartheid assisted them. They have an added advantage.
Yes.
They've closed the space because of the international backing that they have. That's why when a person makes money, we celebrate them.
Yes.
you know, with white people, it's a lifestyle. They are not shocked when you make millions and millions monthly from a small thing.
Yes.
You know. Now, white system was so smart that we must continue to close these people out. How do you close them out? Take few, give Cyril shares. Tokyo, let's make him an entrepreneur. Give Thabo Mbeki his wife shares and all of that, because these are the leaders of our slaves.
Yes.
Once the shop stewards of slaves are sorted, you can't have problems
No.
with the masses because we are controlling their shops towards.
Yes.
You see? So it's a system, it's like that. Now, I don't think we had thinkers because remember what South Africa experienced.
Yeah.
Other countries experienced it before, right?
Yes, they did.
And if we really had thinkers, they were supposed to learn to say, but we're going to be defeated because I don't think the system of whiteness is different in capturing us, in controlling us.
Yes, no.
Now, if you have thinkers will be aware, like China,
Yes.
leadership. Madmen of China became aware to say, but we're going to go for a cultural revolution.
Yes.
Industrial revolution.
Yes.
That's how we're going to change our society.
Yeah. Okay. So it gets a bit disheartening, right? Having traveled the continent and seen countries like Nigeria, like I say, Kenya and the like, you start to get disheartened by the fact that we were the last to get liberation. And in that sense, we would have learned from those people prior to that, right? Where does it fall short for us as Black people? Where do we fall short?
When colonizers arrived, and let me speak about South Africa specifically, when they defeated us, we were 95% of the population.
Yes.
Right? Imagine 5% defeats 95%. How? Because they were able to divide us.
Yes.
Even they go to KZN, they pick up a battle with this one, they defeat them, they go to the next one, they go to Skukuni, they go to Mushweshwe, and all of that.
Yeah.
A success of these people, and which is a success still today, and they are still using the same system today, is to divide Black people.
Yeah.
We've never, as a society, fought whiteness as a united force. We've never.
No. Everybody in the logical space that they want to play.
Whether artillery or what, if we are to be united in saying away with this system, we're going to be victorious. But the division of Blackness speaks unto lack of maturity of Black leaders or those who purport to be Black leaders. Because you can't be a leader of society and propagate a culture of us not being united. It means you are serving your own selfish interest if you don't want the unity of Black people. You know, I heard that President Zuma was saying to the National High Command of Umkhonto we Sizwe that, you know, if you ask Pan-Africanist the same questions, what do you want?
Yeah.
You go, you ask your Black conscious movement, what do you want? You ask those who believe in economic freedom in our lifetime, what do you want?
Yes.
Those who believe in the Congress movement, what do you want? The answer will be the same.
Of course.
Irrespective of your ideological makeup.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The difference maybe is how we arrive there. But
truth.
the answer will be the same.
Yeah.
If the answer is the same, why not come as a block? It means leaders themselves, they don't want unity, because in unity, true leaders will emerge.
Yes.
Remember when we're in segments, true leaders cannot emerge because you lead your small constituency there.
Yes.
They clap for you, they say, hey, you are a leader.
Yeah.
Pushed by the media and all of that.
Yes.
That other one, also small constituency, a fiefdom, they clap and say, you are a leader. You see? But if all those leaders unite, it means a true leader must emerge. They are afraid of that. They rather stick to it. They are small leadership sects, right, wherein they are applauded. But when we come as a collective, true leadership will be forced to emerge, and it is what they are afraid of. Can the masses do it on their own? Unfortunately, masses must be led somewhere. People do not lead their own revolutions. People must be led.
Yes, but people lack inspiration at the moment because there's a leadership vacuum.
And it's because leaders do not lead from the front.
Okay.
Here in South Africa, Hammanskraal, where I come from, it has a crisis of water.
Yes.
It has been a crisis, I don't know for the past how many years. There is no leader in South Africa who led the struggle of water from the front.
No.
No one.
No.
All of them, their own TV, rhetoric, it's done.
Yeah.
They send even their friends to have businesses of tankers there. Now, you know what inspire people? What inspire the communities when a leader is leading from the front?
100%.
You see, when you say, let us march in Hammanskraal, it must come to a standstill.
Yeah.
And leaders are there with the people, being tear gassed with the people.
Yes.
Then you'll see people being inspired to say, if our leader is being tear gassed, why can't we be tear gassed as well?
Yeah.
You see, so leaders lead today from air-conditioned spaces,
of course,
in areas like these ones, from their cell phone, from WhatsApp and all of that. They think now going to grassroots politics, it will burn their skin because they are using expensive chemicals now for their skills. They do nails and all of those things, right? So leadership will emerge, I believe, because the current conditions are not sustainable.
Okay.
True organic leaders are going to emerge in leading their own struggles. But the system that all these leaders have adopted, I don't think it will deliver what we want to see as Black people. Our dignity. We don't have a dignity. We don't even enjoy our culture. We don't enjoy our spaces. There's nothing that we enjoy. We enjoy to assimilate to their style of living.
Look, when I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a march around globalization, right? And what it's going to do to South Africa. There were people who were anti-globalization. Now we sit and we hear about, the president today has put out a story about AI and how it's going to change a lot of stuff. There's a huge growth of slacktivism, as you put it, because people are tweeting, they're writing, they're WhatsApping, but there isn't enough activism, right? How do we inspire activism in what we see now as a failing society? Because there's challenges in between. There's the challenges of the stomach, which is the economic challenge. I'm hungry. Can I go march? Can I go toi? Can I go fight for my rights? Or do I first look out for what is in my tummy before I move on? And those are the two things that are.
Conditions of people are bad.
Yeah.
That's motivation number one, but people cannot lead themselves.
Okay.
Now, how do we bring back the culture of activism? You know, people are not fools.
Yeah.
You say we must go march, you come with the Viano, we're burned by the sun. The Viano drops you. After the march, you don't even say, no, let's go affect them elsewhere. Enter the Viano, you go back to center.
Of course.
Right?
You're drinking bottled water.
Bottled water, and after you sip expensive revolutionary water, as they say, right? Now, people, you'll inspire some for a particular moment because you are a leader.
Yes.
They aspire to be like you. But not all of them are stupid.
No.
Once there's a disjuncture between the message and the action, people will retreat to say, no, but we can't be associating with these ones who speak this way. But when we say, let's go fight, they say, no, let's go to center and enjoy our air-conditioned spaces. It comes back to say, grassroots leaders must emerge and will emerge. But it's grassroots leaders who must emerge and won't assimilate into the system of whiteness. Right? Because others, they start well as grassroots. And they quickly assimilate and they forget. And they start saying, no, but comrades, you must understand. You know, we must be scientific.
Of course.
We must be tactical.
Yes.
Then the minute you start using that language, it means you are working for your family and for yourself.
Michaela Wrong has a book called It's Our Turn to Eat. It's a book about how Kenyan society changed post liberation, right? And how the Kikuyu came in. And they seem to still continue to hold the society in terms of where they are. The people of the Congress were liberators in this country. How do we get to the, or are seen as liberators? I need to put that correctly. Because they are known, somehow continue to own the elections in a different way because they're always seen as the liberators, the ANC as an example, right? How do we change? My daughter's 19 years old. Who's she going to vote for in the next election? What inspires her to vote? Because we can't be going back to the people who liberated. The politics of liberation versus the politics of today are different.
You know, Black people's issues are beyond politicians. In fact, politics is another sector of our problems.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mkhonto Sizwe, they speak about cultural liberation, spatial liberation, economic liberation. But let me focus on the cultural liberation. As Africans, we're spirited people.
Yes.
Right? Now, spirit is very, very critical. In fact, I believe that everything is spiritual first before it becomes to the physical, real. They even tell you about the importance of when people pass on, how they are sent off. And I'm making reference to our culture now. How we were sending our people off, it's not how we're sending them off now.
No.
Right?
That's true.
The casket and all of those things are things that are new to us and they were brought to us. Right? How were we burying our people as African people? You bury them in such a way that there must be a connection between the soil, right? And the chemicals within the body of the people. Some even go to an extent that it's what created minerals, gold, and all of that. There are people scientifically can explain this better than me. I'm saying if people kill you spiritually first, and they say politics, your focus become, hey, elections, hey, we're going to vote 2026, 2027. You are lacking spiritually.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Politics, it's one part of a system that confuses us as an African people.
Yes.
But culturally, spiritually, are we doing things the correct African way? The question that I'm asking you.
Okay.
And my answer is no, we're not.
No, we're not. I mean, we're
kind of left out of and I'm saying, if you are killed spiritually, if we kill you spiritually, you're gone. Even if you'll be a walking corpse,
I'm a walking
you're gone. Many people have PhDs, they are professors, but they are dead.
That's true.
You see? Now, imagine if you are powerful spiritually, you are powerful also in the physical realm.
Yes.
That's why they say Queen Mujaji unisabula.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's spiritual. It's spiritual. That
yes,
thing.
It's spiritual.
Right?
Yeah.
But if the lineage of Mujaji loses how they were doing things and conform to the so-called modern way of doing things. Right? And remember, if we say modern, it's modern in relation to the Eurocentric ways of doing things. Then it means we're a lost society. So to deepen the conversation is that I don't think you can effectively discuss politics without discussing the culture of African people.
True. You cannot discuss politics without discussing the culture of African people. But like you were saying about where we drive to freedom, wherever freedom was, we're going to argue about how to drive there. Is that not the fact that in that lacking of unity, we are always consistently looking at the semantics of culture and being as Black people?
That's why China had Chairman Mao.
Of course.
China, it is what it is today because of the decisions of Chairman Mao.
Yeah.
Was he a perfect human being? No. Is there a perfect human being living here? No. Now you need a leader like Chairman Mao to say, cultural revolution, right? When people, he even went to an extent of killing your academics. Correct or not, it's another thing, but he was a visionary, he had a vision. He said everything else must stop, let's go to steel. Well, let's industrialize. Yes, there was starvation, famine, people died and all of that. But sometimes to bring about 360 degrees change of people, tough decisions must be taken. You see, a debate of saying how, you see, it's a debate of whiteness. White people are going to come, then we waste time
We're going to waste time with the narrative even that we are saying, you know, white people see themselves as the ones that need to be let loose or let go for these changes to come, for the cultural revolution to come, because that's what they're fighting, essentially, right? It's the erasure, right? Yeah. Because in finding the cultural revolution, in recognizing the Black, that is the people that come before me 15, 20 generations before, I have to then erase whiteness out of me too, no?
When I'm saying, leave me alone, let me do my, you can exist somewhere here. Yeah. Let me do my thing. What's the erasure about that? You see, now you want to bring erasure because you want to be intellectual into the conversation. You see, no one is speaking about an erasing other races or other people. We say, let's find a way of doing our own things. Do your things there. Don't interfere. You see, if we agree that the correct way of bearing ourselves as African people is this way, right? Why don't we do how you bear? If you believe in it, it's fine.
But allow us to leave us alone, not even allow
people
leave us alone to do what we do.
To do our thing. You see, it's deeper. It's deep. It's a deep conversation.
It is a deep conversation. But in repositioning ourselves as Black people, because that's what we failed, I think, to a large extent, from my point of view, is that post-liberation, post-94, what we needed to do was to redefine what it means to be an African in South Africa, right? In as Mopedi, as Motswana, as Mozulu. What does that mean? And how does, because you understand that even in how religion permeates some of this culture and has erased some of the practices that are important. The idea of land in that sense then comes back, right? Because people ask, what are you going to do with the land when you get it? It's almost like the same way we can bury people and connect to the earth the same way we wanted to.
Yeah, or land I can sit and think.
Yes.
You see, we also need land to think. We don't think in the small spaces. No, you see, space of land also, it's an opportunity to listen to the trees and nature and think. Ideas will come. You'll be guided spiritually.
So the concentration camps that are the townships with no trees and no land and no space are the drivers of thought and ideology in the country when it comes to freedom. I come from Komaraing, Mpho, right? And people always think of it's vast land. It's a different way of thinking when you're out Komaraing. We have this migrant labor force that was moved here from many years ago, lost connection with its people. Where do you have a cultural revolution in that space?
You can't. You know, let me give you this scenario, and it only made sense now recently. When you remember in Gauteng, December it was raining. Yes. I think throughout December and early January. Yeah. Then where I stay, it's in a suburban area, so a tree falls from the roots. It falls. This guy's car, it's damaged and all of that. Municipality comes, they cut trees, that tree. Neighbors, they come, they take pieces of wood for fire in winter and all of that. He leaves. The wife comes, are you fine? I'm fine. Gone. Then a similar situation happened in Temba many years ago. A tree falls. I get there are these electric cables. Yes. The tree then goes to the electric cable, and then it goes to a hand of a young person. The hand is chopped. Yes. Right? Sure, yeah. Then go higher. people had it already whole, but no man, because of such scenarios, sorry. Remember this white guy, he has insurance already.
Yes.
Koka see chances are on insurance. I'm not saying there are no people with insurance. There are many. There are wealthy people in townships. But the likelihood is that when a natural disaster happens like that, to a black person is not the same, because maybe given ela na zola ka yona ko ka se a laisha a etsang ha e wetse ke setlhare tla laitsene kwa. You know what I mean? Whereas there, it's a different environment altogether. So even as you say, concentration camps, they deny us of natural ways of living because we cut trees. Not because we want to cut trees, but we cut trees because of that scenario of that child who lost a hand, or that car that was damaged and that dollar is no longer providing for the family, and kids start becoming prostitutes and all of that. You see? So this system also has separated us from nature.
Yes, it has.
And continues to separate us from nature. That's why when people say, it's true, because there are no trees there. Direct so. When we even start negotiating going home, which is wrong. You see, we even say, but we say, letsatsi la hamaskrala. As if letsatsi directly pointing hamaskrala. You see, so those are the conditions of black people.
So separating a person from nature separates them, because then there's this idea, you know, I've seen these videos where they play out 2010 versus 2020 or whatever, and they talk about how people moved into an area and that area becomes derelict, right? But there's this idea that black people and nature are not one. Like it's you will correct me maybe, but like it's a leisurely thing, right? And we come across as those that are not necessarily engaged with nature, who are not in touch with nature. Versus the normal going to church on a Sunday kind of idea. We're removed from nature.
Well, they dispossess you of your land.
Yeah.
When they dispossess you of your land, where are the lions? The lions are in the land they've dispossessed you, right? You can't interact with the monkeys because they've taken the land where there was monkeys, elephants, and all of it. So it's not true. Remember, they took our land through genocide and all of that. When they take your land, they give you a township, a concentration. How are you going to interact with lions, as you're making reference to? So it is not true. It's a narrative suiting their agenda. We are people of nature. We are spiritual people. That's why we want the land, so that we can interact with lions.
So your circle of influence becomes your growth, right? So in townships, in Hammanskraal, the young people that are coming up today, for the leaders of tomorrow, what is their circle of influence? Who goes into those townships to drive the conversations about connection to land, to culture, to spirit, to being African?
And those of us who are now transitioning fully now into community politics, we must go back.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm critiquing leaders who are not in the forefront of the struggle of Hammanskraal, I must go and champion that struggle, right? Yeah. From the grassroots. My politics must be in the ground, in the grassroots. In cities, there are no politics there. It's people who are to sell their labor. Everyone's after gra 5,000 agra 10,000 agra 50,000 or even city center go east of Pretoria all of that. So if we say we are true activists, we are revolutionaries, we want to see change, let's go to grassroots. Not only actively participate, but our role is to also conscientize daily, speak like preachers.
Yes.
We must, people do not even understand their conditions. They think being in a township in a dusty street is normal.
Yes, they think it's normal.
They think it's normal. They don't. We must conscientize them. So if there's an upward mobility on your part, you stay here, you forget. It means you are also a living corpse.
That's true.
Because outside interacting Leo society as an activist. Remember, the minute you say I'm an activist, I'm a leader of the community, you are saying I'm no longer, and inherently you can't be ordinary because you are a leader. It means how you do things and all of that.
Has to be extraordinary.
So you can't have a phobia of sleeping in a township. Where you come from, you were raised in that street, so it's happening. You see, there can't be a phobia. There can't be a phobia you walking or reka broto. Yes, it's derogatory, but you can. You must go there, lead community politics, conscientize without conversation with the community. Unfortunately, the system is so tough that it's close to impossible changing it.
Yes.
But with interaction, teaching, there must be schools for these things.
Yes.
There must be continuous engagement. Then you'll see society now taking a shape.
So, Mpho, politics, South Africa, what seems to be a failing society, where there's a leadership vacuum and we're saying grassroots is where we. I want you to paint a picture of a grassroots journey of inspiration. And non-partisan, right? Because what we want is to be able to have a public that understands where they are. Politics is beyond, it's first the humanity, then the politics. Then the leadership will be followed once they see between themselves and the leader. Because it's about self first before it is about where I put my ballot, right? So maybe take me on that one.
You know, politics in South Africa generally lacks a follow-up system. You march to Jubilee Hospital in Hammanskraal, the conditions are bad. Go to OD daily, how they are queuing those patients, you'll cry.
Yes.
Go to all of them.
Yes.
A political party goes, submits a memorandum, they forget.
Of course.
Even when a leader passes in that street, will not say, but we've delivered a memorandum.
What's going on here?
What's going on? The system of politics, it doesn't have a follow-up system at all. Look at all those who call themselves progressives who march. What follow-ups did you take? None whatsoever. A war, it's fought for a lengthy period of time. A war, you don't start it and you win it tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Meaning you must be consistent. The enemy is relying on your fatigue. And fatigue sets in.
Yes, it does.
But you can't be controlled by the fighting fatigue. You must resist it. Through what? Through follow-up. You do it even if you don't want to do it. Now, young people, what they must do is that if they join the space of politics, they must be committed to it.
Yes.
It mustn't be because you've seen a political leader buying an expensive whiskey.
True.
Young people already who are active in politics, when they choose battles, they must choose battles with people who are 10 times stronger than them.
Okay.
Don't fight your peers.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the Goliath.
Or people who are junior. Or who are junior.
Fight the Goliath, yeah.
Fight big people. You know what it does to you when you fight big people or big institutions?
Yes.
Even if you lose that battle, you are always a winner.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? Because you've taken a battle to a huge person or a huge institution.
Yeah.
No man is created from comfort.
Yeah.
Men are created by isolation, rejection, humiliation, embarrassment. That's what creates men, you know. Now, when you pick on big battles, sometimes there are weak people in big institutions. You might not be fighting that weak person, but you are fighting that big institution.
Yeah.
Sometimes you even pick a battle knowing that you are going to lose.
Yes.
but you do it so that it can give you strength for future. That's true activism. That's what the characters like Tsietsi Mashinini, Steve Biko embarked on. That's why they died. Yeah. It's very difficult, of course. I'm not saying you can't die young, but it's not like before where apartheid decide that we're killing you tomorrow. If young people are scared of being killed. Now, if you fight so that you can have 10,000 so that you can pay a bill for slave queens, then forget. You're wasting our time in this activism. So a culture of follow-up in politics, it's what we must introduce as us who are now transitioning fully in community politics. Being content with who you are, because you are not going to be intimidated by anyone who comes with material and all of that. Discipline, you know, also leadership and power comes with responsibilities, because also women will bring themselves. And when women bring themselves, you start sleeping with everyone. It's a risk.
It is, of course.
You see, because a woman can be planted, you can impregnate many people in the process, and you are no longer a leader. The minute you start sleeping with many people, when those women are in that struggle, they're looking at you, but you know,
you lose credibility.
You lose credibility. So it's not an easy path. It requires discipline, principles. I'll leave this with what my mom taught me. Poor as she was, you know. And I used to think my mom is harsh and abusive, and I thank her for who I am today. In primary school, she used to say, Mpho, hanka utlwa ba ro jele ko next door. O tla nkitsipele. And by that time, I already joke. Ar hanka utlwa. Ninning as a child, hey, what you come on next door. You'll do it.
Yeah.
Are ku buditse ka reng tsa mo ikela thupa no o di tlatse di jetse ho ka se di tlatse, you'll get a hiding. But I only understand now later that there's no fool who can come and say, no, we've controlled Mpho Morolane, or we've made him, or we've given him this. No. I'm content with who I am. I don't have a problem sleeping in one room. No. I'm content. You come with this material. If I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. And it ends there. Let's respect each other. And it's what my mom was instilling in me without me being aware. Because in essence, you were saying, you can't be bought with my oja, because otlaja even in wrong places.
That's true.
Certain cultures, sometimes my generation will think our parents were abusive. They were not. Never Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I appreciate, Mpho, is that you came on today to talk to me about a different conversation, right? But I like the way it's morphed in the conversation we've had, because it's important to have these touch bases at a human level before we even enter into the spaces of you're a politician, you're a trade unionist, but you're also a man. A man born of the people that you come from.
With 2 kids, by the way.
With 2 kids. Of the people that you come from. A product of your grandmother, your mother, your society. Yes, there is all the history that comes with you is important, because sometimes we lose touch with the people who are in our leadership, because they seem to be in these big towers above us, and they're intangible and unreachable. And somehow their lives don't look like they are like ours. And actually, if we listen properly, the journey is the same. The journey is the same. The cultural build-up is the same. And what we want, what we seek is the same, which is the to be free in our country, to have good lives for our children and our children's children, and not to be subjugated, whether by those that are in the elite right now or the whiteness that still remains. So thank you so much, Mpho, for playing.
Thank you for having me.
Coming through to BlaqPod.
It was a nice chat.
Thank you for joining BlaqPod, the podcast for everyday people. We will have Mpho back again to talk to us a little deeper around, repositioning ourselves, our thinking as Black people in this society that's continually changing, and owning ourselves and our own narratives before we even start to think about where do we move to into the future where politics are concerned.